Hey beautiful, have you considered subscribing to our channel? Help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers.
The soft hum of machinery pulsed through the corridors of Varnak 7, the galactic medical station suspended in the emptiness between stars. Dr. Vaktal stood rigid at the observation window of the incoming bay, his primary eyelids narrowed, secondary pair fluttering with unease. Beyond the reinforced glass, the docking clamps hissed and engaged with the incoming vessel. An unmarked, heavily shielded courier-class transport flagged with a Sigma-level quarantine warning. Vaktal's talons clicked anxiously against the polished floor as he reviewed the incoming data. Lifeform, unknown. Class, apex predator. Status, critically wounded. Origin, unspecified. He hissed lowly, mandibles twitching in distaste. Apex. The word alone conjured ancestral dread, a primal reaction rooted deep in his species' cold-blooded instincts. He tapped his communicator. "This is a military matter," he muttered into the comm. "The creature should be terminated, not treated." A moment later the reply came, crisp and unyielding. "All sentient biologicals brought to Varnak 7 fall under the jurisdiction of medical intervention, Doctor." "That includes this one," said Commander Thras, his voice mechanical through the device. "Stand by for arrival." Vaktal recoiled from the window. Foolish, rigid regulations. This wasn't a patient. It was a threat with a pulse. The docking bay hissed open. A military containment unit, hovering, sealed, armored, floated in, flanked by 4 armed guards in reactive suits. Vaktal resisted the urge to step back as the pod's exterior decontamination lights flickered off. One of the guards pressed a code into the panel, and with a subtle hydraulic exhale, the pod opened. Inside, half buried beneath bloodied thermal blankets and restraint bands, was the creature. It was humanoid in form, though larger than average. The skin, tanned and mottled with bruises, clung to an athletic frame marred with lacerations. A mess of dark, sweat-drenched hair clung to its forehead. It wore only tattered clothing and a medical collar with alien inscriptions. But what struck Vaktal most were its eyes. Even through the sedation, even in unconsciousness, they were open, vivid, pale green. Focused. Watching. "I will not treat that," Vaktal said immediately. "It's not safe. I've seen these eyes before. They belong to something that knows it is dangerous." One of the guards shifted, uncertain. Another glanced down at the creature's vitals. Still alive. Barely. Heart rate erratic. Oxygen saturation low. Internal injuries severe. "You're the attending xenoveterinarian on duty, Doctor," said the squad leader. "Protocol demands stabilization efforts commence within the hour." "No," Vaktal said flatly. "Find someone else. You're the only licensed tribiological specialist on board." "Then wake Elias Wren." Across the medical wing, Dr. Elias Wren blinked awake to the angry chirp of his comm unit. His bunk vibrated with urgency. The station's automated voice followed. "Priority 1 medical response requested. Sigma class patient. Bay 4. "Sigma?" Elias muttered, running a hand through his sleep-mussed hair. "We're not a war hospital." But as he read the attached data packet, his pulse quickened. Apex predator. Humanoid. Non-classified species. He was halfway into his coat when the emergency alert blared again. By the time Elias reached Bay 4, the air had thickened with tension. Vaktal stood at the corner of the chamber, arms crossed, his upper crest flared in agitation. Commander Thras, taller and bulkier than most humanoid species, loomed like a metallic shadow behind the containment pod. Elias ignored them both and stepped closer to the creature. "The patient. Vitals?" Elias asked without preamble. "Stabilized by sedatives," Vaktal answered, though his tone made it sound more like a reprimand. "But they will fail. There are internal ruptures. Bone fractures. Neural trauma. And a smell, feral, unmistakably carnivorous." Elias crouched beside the pod inspecting the injuries. Multiple lesions. Burn scars. Signs of restraint. Deep ligature marks around the wrists and ankles. "This wasn't a hunting injury," he murmured. "Someone tortured him." Vaktal snorted. "It killed 3 handlers en route." Elias frowned. "And yet it was captured alive. That suggests restraint." He reached toward the being's face. Slowly. Deliberately. When his fingers brushed the creature's temple, its eyelids twitched. Then it flinched, not violently but sharply, like a frightened animal expecting pain. Elias pulled back gently. "That's not aggression. That's fear." "You are being naive," Vaktal snapped. "These things, you humans, were never meant for interspecies integration. You spread. You consume. You dominate. I didn't know you were an anthropologist, Elias said, his voice level. I am a doctor, Vaktal hissed. And I know a predator when I see one. Elias stood facing the room. And I see a patient. Commander Thras took a step forward. Dr. Wren, we have jurisdictional discretion in cases involving unknown threats. If this being is deemed unstable or non-sentient, it can be terminated without breach of treaty. You're not even giving him a chance, Elias said. Let me try. Try what? Thras said, arms folding. Tame it? Civilize it? This isn't a domestication project. Elias sighed, tired but resolute. I want 10 hours. If he shows signs of intelligence, of sentience, of reason, we continue treatment. If he doesn't, I'll step aside. Thras exchanged a glance with Vaktal. The alien vet tilted his head, disgusted. This is folly, Vaktal muttered. We'll all regret it. Maybe, Elias replied, already moving to the control panel. But maybe not. The medbay quieted as the guards withdrew, leaving Elias alone with the sedated figure. The lights dimmed to reduce stimulation. Monitors beeped steadily. Elias stood beside the pod and finally exhaled. I don't know what you are, he said softly. But I don't believe you're just a killer. The creature stirred, muscles twitching beneath bruised skin. I'm Elias, he said, slower now, enunciating. I'm here to help. A flicker passed behind the green eyes. Not understanding, yet, but something close. Recognition maybe. Elias tapped in the override codes and gently lowered the restraints from the creature's arms. One hand slumped free, trembling, palm open. No claws. No weapons. Just rough skin, a faded scar across the knuckles. Elias didn't know why that struck him. But it did. He moved a small stool closer and sat down, activating a datapad to begin his report. Species unknown. Origin unknown. Psychological condition, fractured. Threat level, uncertain. Then he looked again at the prone figure, at the battered chest rising and falling in the rhythm of shallow breaths. He amended the report. Behavioral analysis, scared, not dangerous. Behind him, the door hissed shut, locking with a heavy magnetic thud. Alone now, Elias leaned forward and whispered, more to himself than the creature. Let's find out who you are before they decide what you're worth. The creature's fingers twitched, an involuntary reaction maybe? Or a beginning. Either way, Elias didn't move. And the apex predator, chained in rumor and blood, simply breathed. Waiting. Watching. Alive. The lights in the exam chamber were dimmed to a low amber glow, designed to soothe volatile patients from high-stress species. Elias sat beside the biometric scanner, hands clasped loosely in his lap, watching the figure on the padded platform shift beneath a heat-regulated sheet. For the past hour, the creature, no, the man, had slipped in and out of light sedation, his neural readings unpredictable. Not hostile. Just unstable. His body bore the signature of prolonged stress. Cortisol saturation, adrenal fatigue, disrupted sleep rhythms. None of it was surprising. What unsettled Elias more was the man's silence. When he finally stirred again, his eyes opened more fully this time, unfocused but flicking toward movement. Elias didn't speak. He simply raised both hands in an open gesture, palms out, relaxed fingers, slow breath. The man's gaze settled on him, glassy and narrowed with caution. Not wild. Not feral. Calculated. You're safe, Elias said gently. This is a medical facility. You're injured but you're not restrained. I'm here to help. There was no reply. Only the slow pivot of eyes across the room. The walls. The ceiling. The equipment. The distance to the door. A survival scan, practiced and deliberate. Elias had seen it before, just not in anything alien. You understand me, don't you? He asked. A flicker. That was all. The man didn't nod or speak, but the microtension in his jaw changed. I don't know your name, Elias continued. The data we received called you Subject 44. Not much of a name. Pause. Then, unexpectedly, a hoarse whisper escaped the man's lips. Not name. The voice was cracked and used, but human. Elias straightened in his chair, blinking. Okay, he said slowly, heart skipping. Do you have one? A name? The man closed his eyes again. His chest rose once, shallow, and fell. Elias waited. Outside, beyond the chamber, the debate raged among officers and analysts. Thras had called an emergency session with the station's command council. Vaktal stood before them with a cold certainty, his report projected in alien glyphs and pulses. It mimics, he said flatly. Basic vocal reproduction doesn't imply cognition. Commander Thras folded his arms. But it hasn't attacked. Even unrestrained. That doesn't make it safe, Voktal snapped. Predators wait. They gauge. Across the table, a junior xenobehavioralist cleared his throat. The subject's biochemistry matches several human markers, though altered. Neural mapping suggests high frontal lobe activity. It's not an animal. It's worse, Voktal growled. It's a weapon-wearing skin. Back in the medchamber, Elias was conducting a diagnostic sweep while monitoring the man's response. Each time the scanning wand passed over his ribs or spine, the man flinched, not in pain but in conditioned fear. Pavlovian. Reflexive. You've been through hell, Elias murmured. Someone hurt you. Over and over. This time the man looked at him directly. No aggression in his face. Just exhaustion. And something else Elias couldn't quite name. A need. He opened a compartment under the table and pulled out a hydration capsule, holding it up for the man to see. May I? He asked. The man nodded, barely perceptible. Elias approached slowly and offered the capsule. The man's hand was hesitant, shaking. Not from weakness but from restraint. Every movement was deliberate, suppressed. As though he'd been trained not to react without command. He sipped. Coughing followed, then more breathing. After a long pause he spoke again. Where? This. Medical station. Varnak 7. Neutral territory. You were delivered here under quarantine protocol. The man blinked slowly. Why? You were injured. No species identifier. They thought you were dangerous. He looked away. I don't believe that, Elias said. You could have attacked me. Or the guards. You didn't. A silence stretched. Then flatly, did before. Elias frowned. What happened to you? The man stared at the ceiling. Tests. Elias took a breath. What kind of tests? A beat passed. Then another. When he finally replied, the word came like a confession. Pain. There was no embellishment. Just that word. Heavy and hollow. Elias closed the file on his tablet. You don't belong in a cage. You're not an animal. The man's eyes moved toward him again. They said, I was made for war. Who said? All of them. His fingers gripped the edge of the platform, turning white. Elias noticed faint inscriptions along the underside of the man's forearms, branding marks, not tattoos. Each symbol seemed etched with surgical precision, designed not for decoration but for categorization. Military in origin. What's your name? Elias asked again. The man hesitated, then whispered, Cooper. It was the first thing that sounded real. Human. Cooper? Elias repeated, voice soft. Okay. That's a start. Cooper nodded slowly, the motion tentative. Elias stood and moved toward the console, but Cooper tensed. Not leaving? No, Elias said. Just updating your file. I won't leave unless you want me to. Cooper's shoulders dropped an inch. Elias recognized the gesture, not relaxation but temporary trust. Like a wounded animal letting its guard down for one breath too long. Hours passed. Cooper slept, not peacefully but without sedation for the first time. When he woke again, Elias was still there, scribbling notes on a digital slate. Cooper shifted upright, slow and cautious. You stayed. Elias glanced up, smiling faintly. I said I would. A beat. Most don't. You're not most. Cooper's mouth twitched, unsure if it was humor or suspicion. You talk different. Most humans you've met didn't talk like this? Most humans I met, screamed. The words landed like a stone in Elias's gut. Cooper didn't deliver them with cruelty or sadness. Just fact. Like weather. Like gravity. Elias leaned forward. Cooper, what do you remember before all this? Before the experiments? Another pause. Cooper frowned, like dragging memories through molasses. Fire. Cold metal. Voices. Language I didn't know. Then, them. Them? Tall. Insect-like. Smelled like chemicals. Zentari? Cooper nodded once. They called me Project. Elias's breath caught. Zentari experimentation was strictly outlawed after the biogenetic accords. But loopholes always existed for non-classified species. Did they say what kind of project? Elias asked. Cooper looked at him directly, and this time there was no haze in his gaze. They said I was an answer. To human unpredictability. Said, they made me better. A chill went down Elias's spine. Better. Engineered. Rebuilt. But you're still human, he said. Cooper didn't reply. Just looked at his hands. Maybe. But not like you. Elias stood. You don't have to be like me. You just have to be you. That's enough. The door slid open. Vaktal entered, flanked by 2 guards. His posture was rigid, mouth drawn tight. Enough, Elias, he said. The council has reached a conclusion. We're transferring subject 44. His name is Cooper. Vaktal's eye crest flickered. Fine. Cooper. He's to be moved to Containment Ward 7 for indefinite stasis. No, Elias said firmly. You have no jurisdiction. He's not dangerous. Protocol. Protocol doesn't override sentience, Elias snapped. He spoke. You remembered? He thinks. Cooper sat up straighter, eyes narrowing as the guard stepped forward. You're making a mistake, Elias warned. He's more than what they did to him. Then let him prove it somewhere no one else gets hurt. The guards moved, but Cooper didn't resist. He slid off the platform and stood tall, his back straight, his expression blank. Elias stepped in front of them. You put him in stasis, you kill any chance at understanding who he really is. He's not our responsibility, Vaktal said. He is, Elias replied. Because we're the ones who know better. There was a long, strained silence. Then Vaktal turned away, gesturing toward the hallway. You have 12 hours, he said tightly. If he steps out of line, I'll put him down myself. The guards hesitated, then followed him out. Elias turned back. Cooper hadn't moved. They're afraid of you, Elias said quietly. I know, Cooper said. I'm afraid of me too. Elias stepped closer, rested a hand on the man's shoulder. You don't have to be. And Cooper for the first time didn't pull away. The silence of the med wing in the early hours felt different now, less clinical, more like the eye of a storm. Elias moved with deliberate calm, monitoring the scans while Cooper sat nearby, wrapped in a thin thermal sheet. His injuries were healing faster than expected, bone regeneration accelerating beyond human norms. The lab results confirmed Elias's suspicions. Cooper was enhanced, genetically, neurologically, perhaps even at the molecular level. But none of the results showed instability. No unpredictable mutations, no viral pathogens, no neural decay. Just a man, altered yes but still undeniably a man. Cooper sat on the edge of the exam table, shoulders hunched slightly, hands clasped between his knees. The bandages across his ribs had been removed, revealing pale scar tissue beneath bruised skin. He stared at the floor, not out of shame but detachment, like the world around him remained at arm's length. Elias lowered the scanner. You're healing well. Too well. Cooper's lips twitched into a faint semblance of a smile. Side effect. Of what? Being built instead of born. Elias folded his arms. You're not a machine, Cooper. No, Cooper replied. Machines don't dream. Elias frowned. You've been dreaming? Cooper nodded slowly. Flashes. Running. Screaming. Sometimes, names I don't know. That's memory, not malfunction. Cooper's jaw tensed. Feels like both. There was a pause between them, the kind that lingered in air too quiet. Elias moved to the terminal and tapped in a new set of notes. Cooper's neural signature was stabilizing. He was beginning to respond to stimuli, even verbal abstraction. Not animalistic. Not erratic. Just guarded. Cooper spoke again, voice lower this time. Do you know what they said about humans? The ones who made me. Elias glanced back. They said you were unpredictable. That you were too emotional to control. That's why they built me, emotionless. Perfect recall. No rebellion. Only loyalty. Doesn't sound like it worked. Cooper shrugged. Did for a while. Until it didn't. What changed? His fingers curled slightly. They heard a kid. One of the lab staff. Young. Just scared. He dropped a tray near my chamber. The handlers beat him for it. Said he was contaminating the asset. Elias watched him carefully. And you stopped them. Cooper's voice hardened. I broke one's arm. Crushed the other's throat before I even thought about it. Was that the first time you disobeyed? No. First time I knew I wanted to. That moment, raw, pivotal, hung in the space between them like a held breath. Elias leaned against the desk. They called you a weapon, he said. But you chose not to be. Cooper didn't reply. But his gaze lifted and Elias saw it, the conflict behind his eyes. Not guilt. Not pride. Just the burden of knowing that every choice he made would always be viewed as dangerous simply because of what he was made to be. Outside the room, someone pounded the outer door. The sound echoed through the corridor. Elias moved quickly to the console. That's not scheduled. The security feed blinked to life. A patrol officer stood at the outer lock, panting, armored but smeared with dark fluid. Was it blood? Elias tapped the comm. What happened? The voice came back ragged. Docking breach. Unauthorized ship. Something's on board. Something? Don't know. Not ours. Moving fast. Took 2 men down already, non-lethal force but strong. Looking for someone. Elias stiffened. Cooper stood behind him now, reading the same data on the screen. They're coming for me, he said. Why now? Elias asked. I wasn't supposed to live long enough to talk. From the corner of the chamber, a secondary door hissed open. Vaktal entered with his usual expression of disdain already in place, followed closely by 2 more guards. We're evacuating Medwing 4, Vaktal said. Non-essential personnel will be relocated to lower decks. Elias folded his arms. I'm not going anywhere. This is your fault, Vaktal snapped. You kept him alive and now whoever made him wants him back. He's a patient, not a package. Vaktal gestured toward Cooper. He's a magnet for violence. He shouldn't have existed in the first place. Cooper stepped forward. They'll kill anyone in their way. Then you'll go into isolation, Vaktal declared. No, Elias said. That won't protect anyone. Then what do you propose? That we arm him? Point him toward the enemy and hope your pet human knows friend from foe. Cooper met Vaktal's glare without flinching. I know exactly who the enemy is. The emergency alarms kicked in, amber lights flashing in sequence, doors beginning to seal. Elias turned to the terminal and pulled up the station's override protocols. You're not putting him in a box again, he said. Elias, Vaktal started. If you want to stop me you'll have to go through protocol review. And you won't win. Vaktal's claws twitched. You're endangering all of us. No, Elias said calmly. I'm trusting him. Cooper looked at Elias then at the door. His breathing deepened and he reached for the chest monitor patch, tearing it off without hesitation. I'll go, he said. Alone. Elias raised a brow. You sure? They'll come for me either way. If I meet them halfway, fewer people get hurt. That's not what a weapon would say, Elias murmured. Cooper's expression darkened. It's what a man would. Vaktal hissed under his breath, turning on his heel. Don't say I didn't warn you. The guards hesitated, then followed Vaktal out. Elias reached under the counter and opened a weapons locker, keying in his emergency override. I thought you didn't trust weapons, Cooper said. I don't, Elias replied. But I trust people who don't want to use them. He handed over a compact plasma knife and a kinetic discharge baton, non-lethal but strong enough to break through reinforced glass. Cooper looked at them then took the baton only. I won't kill unless I have to. Elias nodded. Then we better make sure you don't have to. They moved into the corridor together. The lights flickered as internal defenses reconfigured. Cooper's posture changed subtly as he walked, less clinical, more tactical. He moved like someone trained not just for combat but survival. Down the hall, the airlock had been breached. A figure stood silhouetted in the flickering doorway, tall, armored, insectoid. Not a Zentari soldier but close. Sleeker. Blacker. A shadow of the old war. Subject 44, it hissed. Return to custody. Cooper stepped forward. You don't give orders anymore. You malfunctioned. I evolved. The figure raised a pulse weapon. Elias moved to intercept, but Cooper was faster. The baton sparked with kinetic discharge as he surged forward, body pivoting low, slamming the weapon aside with a crack of energy. The impact sent the alien skidding back, circuits sparking from its shoulder. Elias watched, breath held. Cooper didn't press the advantage. He stood still, waiting. The figure glitched, recalibrated, then fled down the hall. They'll be back, Elias said. I know. More figures were inbound, heat signatures flickering on the nearby scanners. Cooper turned toward Elias, something calm and resolute in his eyes. You still think I'm just scared? He asked. Elias nodded. Yes. But that doesn't mean you're not brave. Cooper cracked a smile. I'll take that. The station's defenses were activating. More personnel were evacuating. But Elias stayed close, walking beside the man they once called Subject 44. A man whose blood had been branded with fear, but whose soul still chose protection over violence. For now the war hadn't come. But it was knocking. And Cooper was ready to answer. The hallways pulsed with red emergency lighting, casting long, jagged shadows along the walls. Smoke from a damaged coolant duct snaked through the corridor ceiling, and the vibration of distant impacts rolled like thunder beneath the floor. Varnak 7, once sterile and still, now groaned under the pressure of the storm bearing down on it, unseen but no longer distant. Cooper stood in front of the blast door to the central operations hub, breath steady, eyes forward. His body bore the marks of the brief skirmish, burns along his forearms, a welt blooming across his collarbone, but his grip on the pulse baton never wavered. Behind him, Elias keyed frantically at the override panel, trying to unlock the final barrier between them and the station's emergency defense grid. "They're jamming remote access," Elias muttered, sweat beading at his brow. "Whatever they're after, they don't want us locking it down." "They want me," Cooper said simply. "You keep saying that," Elias replied, glancing at him, "but I don't think they just want to capture you. I think they want to erase you." Cooper gave a single nod. "I'm proof. Of what they did. Of what they're still doing. Then we don't let them." The panel sparked once and flickered green. With a groan, the blast doors hissed open. Inside, the operations hub had been abandoned, chairs overturned, coffee still steaming in one half-crushed cup. Elias moved quickly to the main terminal, hands dancing across the interface as he brought up a live feed of the station's lower levels. 3 enemy units, sleek, black-armored, unervingly silent, moved like liquid through the docking ring, bypassing security with inhuman precision. Elias recognized the design now, not Centauri but derivative. Paramilitary offshoots. Black sites. The kind of entities that thrived in the unregulated dark between interstellar laws. "They're here for containment," Elias said. "Not assault. Surgical. They're looking for you, and if they can't get you, they'll erase the whole med bay. Burn the evidence." Cooper stared at the feed, jaw clenched. "How long?" 5 minutes before they reach Central," Elias answered. 10 before backup gets here. If it comes. Then we make 5 minutes enough." Elias turned to him. "What are you planning?" Cooper didn't answer. Instead, he crossed the room to a maintenance locker, pulled it open, and retrieved a reinforced nanoweave vest, standard issue but sturdy enough to absorb most kinetic impacts. He slipped it over his frame without hesitation, fastening the straps tight across his chest. "You said you didn't want to kill," Elias said. "I don't," Cooper replied. "But I'm not letting them do this again. Not to anyone." Elias swallowed, a strange blend of pride and dread coiling in his chest. "You're not a weapon." Cooper's expression softened slightly. "No. I'm a survivor." The terminal beeped, motion detected outside the main corridor. Cooper turned to the entrance, pulse baton ready. Then paused. "I need you to do something," he said, voice low. "Anything. If I don't come back, delete the med logs. The scans. All of it. Don't let them turn what I am into another blueprint." Elias didn't argue. He knew better. "Come back and do it yourself." Cooper gave a half smile and stepped into the corridor alone. The first unit met him near the auxiliary lift shaft. It didn't speak. It didn't hesitate. Its plasma rifle leveled at his chest and fired. Cooper dropped low, the bolt slicing past his shoulder, searing heat flaring across his skin. He surged forward, baton crackling, and struck the unit's leg, hard. The kinetic surge shattered its joint, sending it crashing sideways. Before it hit the floor, Cooper spun, slammed the baton into its chest plate and pulsed. The armor sparked. The unit stilled. One down. The second came from above, leaping the railing of the mezzanine with predatory grace. It didn't use a weapon, just claws that hissed with charged current. Cooper blocked the first strike, absorbed the second with his vest, then twisted into its reach, grabbing its arm and wrenching it sideways until the circuitry screamed. It hissed, not in pain but protocol error. He knocked it out with a final blow to the head unit. 2 down. But the third wasn't like the others. It walked slowly, measured, almost human in gait. Cooper's breath hitched as the thing's face came into view, helmetless. Beneath the black armor was a pale-skinned man, his expression blank. Eyes dead. Features disturbingly familiar. Cooper took a step back. "You're one of us." "No," the man said. "You failed." He moved faster than expected, driving Cooper backward with a flurry of precise strikes. Every motion was calculated, efficient, just like his. Cooper blocked, countered, adjusted. But for every maneuver the man adapted. Designation 45, the man said mid-strike. Upgraded neural reflex. Reduced empathy retention. No off switch. Cooper grunted, staggering. They made another. They made better. The next punch hit hard, too hard. Cooper crashed into the wall, ribs aching. He rolled aside as a foot stomped where his head had been, then slammed the baton into 45's knee. It faltered. They replaced me, Cooper said, breathing hard. No, 45 corrected. They perfected you. And then Elias was there. He'd bypassed the safety override on a maintenance drone and sent it flying down the hall, blaring alarms and bright flashes. 45 turned instinctively and Cooper seized the moment, lunged forward, grabbed him by the collar, and drove them both through the side paneling and into the power subgrid. Sparks flew. Circuits overloaded. The station groaned under the feedback surge. They hit the floor hard. 45 twitched, his system spasming under the electromagnetic shock. Cooper crawled free, chest heaving. Elias ran to him. Come on, station's losing containment. I can shut it down, Cooper rasped. Just get to the command deck. You'll die. Maybe. But not without a choice. Elias hesitated. Then slowly he reached out and clasped Cooper's hand. You already made the right one, he said. Cooper nodded, then turned and sprinted toward the core junction. The alarms intensified as containment ruptures flared. Cooper moved like a storm, fluid, relentless. He bypassed security, rewired the internal access, and reached the core. The controls blinked red. He didn't hesitate. He input his identifier, Subject 44, and transferred full control to manual override. One final message uploaded. Human, not weapon. Let that be the legacy. Elias watched from the command deck as the surge passed through the network, neutralizing all hostiles in an electromagnetic cascade. The station held. The attackers fled. And the med logs, he didn't delete them. He archived them. Not as evidence, but as testimony. 3 hours later he stood over the recovery table where Cooper lay, alive, unconscious but whole. His vitals were stabilizing. His body battered but not broken. Vaktal stood nearby, arms folded. You were right, the alien said quietly. Elias didn't look at him. I usually am. Vaktal nodded. He's not an apex predator. No, Elias said softly. He's just scared. Not dangerous. Cooper stirred slightly, eyelids twitching. He would wake soon. And this time they would listen.